冇嘢你都講得出口嘅。喂，而家我有嘢喎，喂，咪喐啊！你有咩講清楚喎？得㗎啦。007，親自簽字承認，走私販賣國寶，罪無可恕，無需審判，即時槍決。
Talk about a harsh sentence for pirating video. Man, one thing, if you ever, and I recommend never go to North Korea, make sure you're not taking any movie or anything in your system. Just keep it pure off your laptop, your cell phone. Just purge it before you go, whether it's music or movies. But before we start, don't forget to hit that like, subscribe, share. Go up, hit that notification bell, and switch it to all, and you'll receive all of our notifications here on Cuticast TV and Man with the Show. Netflix Squid Game, one of the hottest properties on Netflix right now. It's no longer in the top 10, but it still pops up every once in a while in the top 10, goes in, goes out. People are still watching this. There is a season 2 coming. From what we understand from the creator of the series. I mean, this is a hot property right now. Really hot property. There were Halloween costumes, video games. I mean, there's so much that has been happening with this property. I'm surprised Alice in Borderlands, this didn't happen to Alice in Borderlands, which was popular also, which was based on a manga anime, didn't get this much fanfare for this series, but probably when season 2 comes out, it'll probably get more fanfare for that series as well when that gets released. But unfortunately, don't expect to see it in North Korea, and don't buy a copy in North Korea because you might just end up on death row because of this.
Get the fuck out of here! No, I cannot. It's serious because it's very.
And there are stories that have come out of North Korea that people have been arrested selling copies of the Squid Game to people in North Korea.
Get the fuck out of here! No, I cannot. It's serious because it's very.
And we got this report out of Bounding. North Korea reportedly sentences a man to death for smuggling and selling copies of Netflix Squid Game. And we'll read a little bit into this. North Korea has reported sentencing a man to death after several high school students were caught watching illegal copies of Netflix South Korean survival drama series Squid Game, which he allegedly smuggled into the country and sold to them. As reported by Radio Free Asia, whose anonymous North Korean sources provided them with the details about the purported crime, the accused perpetrator carried USB flash drives containing Squid Game's first season from China into the communist country before eventually selling them to students. In addition to the supposed smuggler death sentence, 6 of the 7 students who got caught watching the South Korean drama series were reported sentenced to 5 years of hard labor, while the student who actually purchased one of the drives set to serve a life sentence in prison.
Get the fuck out of here! No, I cannot. It's serious because it's very.
This all started last week when a high school student secretly brought a USB drive containing the South Korean drama and watched it with one of his best friends in class. And the source referred to by the RFA as a law enforcement officer in North Korea province of, please excuse me if I mispronounce this, North Hamgyong. The friend told several other students who became interested and shared the flash drive with them. They were caught by the censors in 109 SAMU, who had released the tip-off. By 109 SAMU, the source is referring to the particular government strike force, which are eventually known as the Surveillance Bureau Group 109, whose purpose is to catch individuals who are watching illegal content in North Korea. RFA source also noted that this event marks the first time the North Korean government has applied the newly passed Elimination of Reactionary Thought and Culture law to minors. He then detailed what conditions the students sentenced to hard labor will face, as well as the concern amongst fellow North Koreans about the possible ramifications this incident could bring to those who had no connection whatsoever to the situation. Residents are engulfed by the anxiety as the 7 will be mercilessly interrogated until authorities can find out how the drama was smuggled in within the borders closed due to the coronavirus pandemic, the source explained. It means that the bloody winds of investigation and punishment will soon blow. The source elaborated that the government is taking this incident very seriously, saying that the students' education was being neglected. Oh, man. The Central Committee dismissed the school principal, their youth secretary, and their homeroom teacher. They were also expelled from the party. It is certain that they will be sent to toil in the coal mines or exiled to rural parts of the country, so that other school teachers are all worried that it could happen to them too if one of them students are caught up in the investigation, he speculated. A second anonymous source who contacted the RFA provided further insight into the particular incident and what negative effects it may have on other citizens of the Kim Jong-un rule of East Asian country. Well, I tell you, this is what happens when you have governments who try to control the flow of information. And you may say, well, that will never happen here. But let me tell you something. It does happen here in some ways. I mean, you don't get a death sentence. In some cases, you don't go to jail. But people have been arrested for things that they have said on Twitter and Facebook. There are people who, in one or two other countries, have been arrested for comedy, for making an off-gesture joke. People have been banned for saying things that are scientifically accurate. New York Post was locked out of Twitter because they reported a story which was factually accurate, and basically they were banned because basically Twitter is not a place, but has become so politically poisoned. You're already seeing now that with the new CFO, he's taking over, and already within 24 hours is instituting new policies that will cause censorship on Twitter. You know, this is a long time happening, and you know, this is on our doorsteps, and we have to be able to distinguish the difference between what is very destructive to the community to what is actual proper information. We have to have a conversation on both sides of the situation. You know, it doesn't matter who you are, whether you're left, you're right, you're conservative, you're Democratic, you're Republican, it don't matter. We need to respect each other's opinions. Now, fortunately, there are those on the far left, and I will say this, that they're on the far left, that have gone completely mentally insane. And you may say, well, what about the guys on the far? Yeah, there are guys on both sides of the aisle, but the thing about it is, when you look to the perspective, there are people on the far left that have just totally, that have gone completely, totally Jack Nicholson, The Shining, insane. I mean, all you got to do is look at what's going on in the news recently. What is going on out there? I mean, you talk about censorship. And we had a video this past week, and they were saying, well, it was a mistake. We didn't know it. I have a lot of questions on that mistake, and this is from the HBO Max, the Birds of Prey upload. They said, well, they uploaded the edited version, and it was by mistake. Well, excuse me, from someone who's been in the industry, who has worked with masters for duplication, for uploads, and stuff like that, everything is marked. So you're telling me the person that uploaded it didn't pay attention to it, didn't check it to make sure that everything was running okay, because as soon as you hit that play button, you would get that warning that says this is an edited version of this movie, and you would see the rating on there. But when you look at the screenshot that I threw in that video, you will see rated R on the top corner, and then you would see the edited version. So whose fault is that? I mean, we've been getting a lot of videos out there that have had content warnings, whether it's 30 seconds or to 5 minutes. See, that's what I worry about. If you tell someone, say, hey, listen, there's mature things on here, there's violence, nudity, sexual, that's fine. But when you start to see things broken down to, well, there's people smoking, drinking, doing this, doing that, now you're going overboard with the ratings line. This is why I'm saying this is Hays Code 2.0 that's going on right now. The Hays Code is returning. This is the stuff they were doing with the Hays Code back in the 30s to 60s. Someone needs to go and start suing these companies, because we can look back at the Supreme Court of the late 50s that have already deemed this censorship against the Constitution. It is a violation of the Constitution when you look to that perspective, because basically you're allowing a group of people, and mostly in government, because the person who is named after Hayes worked for the U.S. government. This was government censorship. Government and also religious censorship at the time, but mostly government censorship, because it was someone from the government running this. So when you look to that perspective, and then from the 30s to the 60s of that, and then you look at the situation where this person who brought this into the country sold it to people to watch. People got caught watching. Now they're going to spend most of them spending 15 years to life in the coal mines. What's going to happen to the teachers? What's going to happen to the people around them? Their families. And then the person who did it has been sentenced to death. Death, mind you. See, this is where you get to the point, and this is why it's the failure of this organization. The United Nations needs to step in. They need to step in on this. But they're not going to. Why? Because countries like North Korea, China, and Russia are on those boards that handle situations of this nature. That's right. The biggest offending countries that break laws throughout the world, whether it comes to slavery, where it comes to human rights, human trafficking, they are on those boards that they dictate the policies to the world. And this has been happening for many years now. This is not something that's been overnight. When you hear that the former president here wanted to leave the United Nations, I believe he should have. We should have withdrawn from the United Nations, wholeheartedly, because basically, like every other agency here, like the NAACP, the American Civil Liberties Union, and many other organizations that are here to help the individuals, that they have turned against those policies, that they've turned against the people that they are supposed to be helping. There are a lot of cases out there that should be heard by certain groups that should be fighting for those civil liberties. When you have civil liberties groups turning their backs on the American public because there are activists in their groups now, we need to start pulling funding from these groups. We need to stop giving money to these groups. I'm dead serious on this. We've gotten to a point where we have to be afraid of the situation. This is just a sample of things yet to come. If we do not fight now, and you may say, well, this is not going to happen. Who says it's not going to happen here? They said the type of censorship that Twitter, Facebook, YouTube and all others would not happen like it is in Russia, China, and North Korea. But it is happening. We've seen one political group censored on social media, including the former president of the United States. And they claim, well, it's because of hate speech. Number one, and wholeheartedly understand this. Whether you like the situation or not, according to the Supreme Court in the late 60s, several cases, you can look this up, there is no such thing as hate speech. Remember that, and I'll repeat that again. According to the Supreme Court, hate speech does not exist because of the rules of the Constitution. Whether you like what somebody spews out, yes, there are many people I disagree with wholeheartedly. Yes, there are people who are racist in this world, but it was slowly, becoming less and less and less in the last several years, until about 10 years ago. 10 years ago, you had people push it. They use the words, if you disagree with something, you're a white supremacist. If you disagree with something, you're a Nazi. If you disagree with something, you're Hitler. Or you're a trumpet, or you're this and that.
And all of a sudden, you're a Nazi.
You don't know me. You don't know who I am. When I tell you these things, you know me, and I'm not being mad at you my viewers, on that, but I'm mad at the people out there who puts a label on people like me. You don't know who I am. For you to say that I have an opinion on certain things and you deem me a racist because of that, you don't know me. You've never been around me. Look at the facts and evidence to the situation. You have your opinion and I have mine. For you to deem me racist is actually making you racist. Think about that for a moment. And that's how things started like that in North Korea. That's the things that they push. This is the fear that they push on there. That they're outsiders. They talk about the outsiders that they're bringing this in. They're corrupting our children. And you see that's happening in the school systems now. That they're trying to push this agenda in schools here. That America was never good. That America was always racist. But don't realize the true history of America. That if it wasn't for America, most of the countries around the world, most of them, would still have slavery. Yes, slavery still exists in the world. But there were a lot of countries that stopped slavery because of some of the things the U.S. did and what the British government did at the time. There were blockades from slave traders by the United States. There was a moment in history where slaves were offered to go back to their mother country, to go back to Africa, and some of them took advantage of that. Most people don't realize that happened. People don't understand that slavery didn't start in America. Slavery started in the rest of the world at the time, when the world was much smaller. And you could tout the history of every country on this planet that's had some sort of slavery in their history books. Yes, you will always have bad parts of your history, but you have to look at the parts of how they changed the world. So we hope that somebody steps in to try to stop this execution, because, whether you like Squid Game or not, it is a good show. It is a good story. And you reached this part of the video. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to hit that like, subscribe, share this video. And if you happen to be watching this right now on currently YouTube, BitChute, or Odyssey, note that we are now available on Rumble. We've had to make those changes. We made that decision just recently. Unfortunately, certain social media platforms have given us the situation to the point where we had to make that decision. We did not want to go as far as Rumble. We had a couple of issues with Rumble that, like Tim Pool says, we have a lot of questions on there. But unfortunately, the bigger issue is the censorship and the policy-driven things that are going on this particular platform, YouTube. Like, we hopefully Raging Golden Eagle is back up again, but as far as when this was recorded, he was still shut down according to YouTube. So we'll see you on the next video. Thank you for tuning in, and stay safe, and bye-bye.